Yeah, good evening all. Today I'm so grateful and happy to have a very senior person, Lieutenant Dr. Alex Mathew, Ph.D, Th.D, around 87 years of age. So it's a great privilege and pleasure to have him because a person with such a wide lifelong experience, evergreen experience. So this session will be so informative and wonderful. And I'm so happy to share a screen with such a person with great vision as well as great experience. Dr. Alex Mathew, he is now President-Toc H Institutions, President Emeritus-ALMS-India, President Grace Consulting India, Chairman Faith Children's Home, Executive Secretary Toc H India, Chairman-Arogya Foundation. So welcome you, sir. I welcome you to this interactive session, and I would like to get a detailed introduction from your side because you are such an elderly person with a wide vision as well as energy level. So welcome you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Hari. Thank you for
thank you
introducing me and taking me into this interactive session on counseling. Yeah, a little more personal details, as Dr. Hari said. People would want to know what sort of a person is this. And so as Dr. Hari said, I'm running 87, and I had my basic education in India up to post-graduation. I did my post-graduation in plant sciences and specializing in plant pathology. And then I taught in Madhya Pradesh MP State College for 10 years. And then from there, I went to Africa. It just happened that I was attracted by some of the things that was happening in that continent. And although I was here in a college, I went there to teach Cambridge A-level. That's up to 13th year, equivalent to first year BSc in India. So things started really happening when I was there. For some reason or the other, the students in my class started approaching me for personal help. Some of them were monetary help, but most of them were life problems. You see, when the children in Africa goes to school, in those days, standard 1, they would go when they're about 9, 10, like that. So when they come to standard 13 in the junior college level, they are already into relationships and they get into all sorts of trouble. And for some reason, they were gravitating towards me for guidance. So a point came when I thought I need to know more about counseling. So I attended a diploma course in counseling and hospital management. And then I went to Nairobi and joined the American college there for a master's program in counseling. Then I did my work, and it took a long time because of certain complications at the government level. And they offered me a Th.D, D.D, that is Doctorate in Education. But I had a plan to pursue counseling after I come back to India. So I said, I don't want a D.D. I would want a doctorate in counseling. So the program was prolonged a little more, and then they sent me to their parent university, Southwestern, in Phoenix, Arizona, from where I did my PhD in counseling. I stayed there for 16 years, and I came back to India in 1985, specifically wanting to take up a counseling career in India, because you see, when it comes to counseling, cross-cultural counseling, you come to a point where you are stuck for words. I was not so proficient in Swahili, and so there were points where I would get stuck because of cultural differences and all that. So I took a considered decision to come back to India and pursue counseling. So I came to India, and it happened that there is this organization called Toc H. Toc H means actually in Army code, it's TH. T in Army code, Morse code is Toc and H. It's a foundation which started in 1915 after the World War, First World War, for the war-weary soldiers and their families, and it was humanitarian work. And then, being a Commonwealth country, it came to India in 1920s, and in Cochin, where I am, it came in 1972. But then, when I came in 1985. I joined that organization because their ethics appealed to me. They lived for service. They consider service as the rent we pay for room here on earth. That appealed to me, and they have 4 compass points. That is, love widely, think fairly, build bravely, and witness humbly. And these 4 points also attracted me, so I joined them as an ordinary member. Right now, I am the president of the organization in here in Cochin. We have an engineering college, a business school, and a secondary school, and over 500 faculty and nearly 300 other workers. And so that's where I am. And by the side, I do counseling to a couple of people a week, 2 or 3 people a week. No, I don't get more time. But you see, because of my age and my long experience in counseling, over 51 years in counseling, I have come to a point where I have graduated from counseling into more of mentoring. Because of my age, people are willing to accept what I have to offer, because in counseling, it takes too much time. It's so time consuming, because we have to keep asking, eliciting questions and get answers from them and help them to produce an answer by themselves.
Yes, sir. So, yeah. So it was a wonderful introduction from Dr. Alex Mathew, sir. Actually, I was very much fascinated because of his wide experience, the age, and his energy level. That much passionate he is about this field of counseling psychology. That passion only drives me towards him, towards this interactive session also, because his energy level is that limit tends to infinity, and I am just thinking what is the secret of that level. So, so it was a good introduction. I traveled through Africa, and it was a good perspective of visualization myself, that how Dr. Alex Mathew sir has traveled his life from this academia life into this counseling field, and still he is continuing that because of his passion. So I would like to add one more thing. I am working as principal in Holy Grace Academy of Engineering. So as sir has mentioned, that mentoring process, that is one student-centric approach, is altogether I'm trying to implement, and somewhat I'm doing some work over that. And I am also very much passionate in psychology. That's why I was associated with sir, because I had gone through his profile. That sound profile in the scenes, usually an academic profile has a common attributes, but sir's approach towards psychology is quite unique. That uniqueness is the sense he has actually felt the real feeling of psychology, and he is having his own ideology of psychology. So let's start this interactive session. So welcome you, sir. So my first question, I am asking these questions regarding representing a lot of questions, or as a layman, in a layman point of view. Thing is that let's start from the nowadays we can see there are a lot of emotional imbalance, especially in the colleges, among the students, among the family, among the relationships, everywhere. And we are seeing that the most beautiful thing for a man or a woman to be the state of happiness. So how we can attain the state of happiness with the diversified feelings, sir? How we can?
Oh my God, that is a universal question, how we can achieve happiness. Yeah, that needs a rather long answer. But let me tell you one thing. I was introduced into psychology and counseling first as an existential counselor. So here what Dr. Hari has asked is, how can you be happy? So then inevitably a question comes, what is the purpose of existence? Is existence meant for seeking, finding happiness? Is that a goal per se for human existence? If we have to define happiness, it may be simply said as absence of unhappiness and the sense of joy. Joy and happiness are different, of course. An effervescent feeling of feeling good and comfortable within. That comfortable feeling within is so important. We call that, in existential terms, we call that feeling good. So people spend their whole life to feel good. In common terms, that might connote happiness, but feel good. How do I feel good? How do anybody else feel good? The feeling of being good or being in a state of happiness, it cannot be produced outside the person. That is the crux of the issue. People go about seeking happiness. But the real truth is, you cannot search and find happiness outside you. You cannot buy happiness. You cannot create happiness. No one can really pump in happiness into your being. So this is a process that has to happen within each person. But how does this possibility to find happiness within oneself is hampered? Human beings go through a lot of problems. And I want to make a universal statement acceptable by all scientists and psychologists and everyone, by all religions and all caste and creed and by all nations. The simple truth is man creates, generates his or her own problems. The problems that I have is a product of my generating it. But no one would be willing to admit that. That is where the mentoring becomes more important. To make a counselee feel, accept that he is creating his own problems is very difficult. In counseling terms, it is called personalizing, or what is my contribution in my problem. It's a very difficult stage in counseling. See, before that, before personalizing, we get to know the person and he says a lot of things and we interact with him and all that. But when it comes to personalizing, you would see most people would stop coming for counseling because it's so painful to own up one's own responsibility in one's own situation. It's a very common phenomenon. As I said, I've been counseling for the last 51 years. And most people come with a complaint that someone is causing them problems.
Exactly. You are very true. Yeah. You're very true, because there comes the blame games, because always we are shouldering our problem to others and we are blaming others. And I would like to ask some questions regarding this. For example, when a marriage proposal is coming or something like that, they will be understanding the families, each other through the friends, through the neighbors, through the relatives, and with getting a clear-cut idea only. Arranged marriage, in the case of an arranged marriage, they're proceeding further. And in between, if there is any problem between the husband and wife, and they themselves have to sort it out. But sometimes that problems will be splitted towards the relatives, the parents, and they will be cooking several other things over with adding their own ingredients. And finally, we can see the husband and wife are really helpless because everything is surplus. The salt, the sugar, the sour, everything is added more than the amount required. So actually, we can't name that dish at that level. It is beyond the limit. And at that point, as Sir has mentioned, the blame games that start building up and there won't be an end. So what is, with your experience in this field, what is your opinion in my question, the situation for this?
Especially in family counseling, very often it's not per se the husband and wife problem. Very often, especially in the family configuration of Indian social setup. Normally, the parents of the husband or the wife, they would have or they would want to maintain a say in the manner in which they live, or they would want to dictate their terms, or they would want to see that they are going according to their projections of life. It's becoming less and less in India these days, but it used to be like that. Even now, a lot of parents want to exert their influence and want to direct the lives of their children, even though they are married. That is one side of the issue. Naturally, the proverbial mother-in-law, daughter-in-law problem, it's widely present in most of the families. And the mother-in-law would say that the daughter-in-law is so bad. This daughter-in-law would say that mother-in-law is interfering with everything. I don't get my husband to myself. And this, all sorts of allegations from both sides. And very often it is the husband who is jam-packed between the parents and the wife. Very often. Otherwise, other situations also are present, but this is what usually happens. This session is not meant for guiding the parents of how they should conduct themselves with relation to their children, but what the husband and wife themselves can do to ameliorate the influence from outside their own family. See, when a person gets married and they become husband and wife, the accepted convention is that they become one and they have to live their life together. But parents are, for some reason or the other, they are skeptical. They are afraid, oh my goodness, my children, what will they do? I mean, I need to direct them. I need to get them this, that, and in every stage, they try to interfere. And these days, that is less and less tolerated by young people who are educated and employed and have their own life to live. This is a huge social problem, and marital counseling is a separate section in counseling. And as Dr. Hari said, the blame shifting, finding a scapegoat for my problems is so prevalent, and it is so easy to get into that type of ruckus. In situations like this, as counselors, as professionals, as ordinary people, what should be our response? See, the important thing is we can say a lot of things, how people should live, how people should behave, and how they should set up their life, and all that. We can say a lot of theory. But as I said earlier, the problem in marital relationships and the interference of the in-laws and all that, the problem gets multiplied, it becomes large, depending on the reaction of the people involved. If I resent the interference of my mother-in-law in our life, it's not easy to take it out on the mother-in-law. And so my resentment and anger would be directed towards my wife, and our relationships get into a very, very unhealthy relating. The problem is, I am not looking into myself to find out how best we can adjust in a difficult situation. I want to react. I want to react and give it back to my mother-in-law. But then that's not easy. So the easiest target is the wife. So she gets it. The family relationships get vitiated because of this sad projection of problems onto somebody else. I have to handle my problems and my family issues. It's not my mother-in-law, it's not my father-in-law, it's not my father or my mother who are to solve our marital issues. We have to take on the responsibility, but then we are not tearing ourselves away from them, keeping good relations with them, at the same time taking care not to react. The whole issue is centered around reacting. The inner processing of the information that we get inside. We believe everything is happening against us, and so we react. So although Dr. Hari didn't ask me that, reaction comes from a less developed brain.
Yes, exactly.
Human beings have a huge cerebral cortex and the coordinating center, the optical cortex and the olfactory, all that big cortical and cerebral parts in human brain. But we often go back to our poor ancestry, and then we start reacting from the midbrain. The midbrain contains the hypothalamus and the amygdala and the pituitary and all that areas which controls the emotions. The senses first come to that emotional center, and then we react from that area of the brain.
So it's a very clear-cut answer from Dr. Alex sir, because no one has given such a detailed explanation with all these biological aspects also. So it's very convincing and very we can relate the situation also.
You see, the brains of the lower animals, for example, reptiles, they have a huge midbrain. Their cerebrum is in the front, it is only very small. But their midbrain is huge, and whatever they do is react from the midbrain. And what do they know? How do they react? Snap, snap. A crocodile knows only snapping. A snake only knows biting. That's all it can do. It's an instinct from the midbrain. But when human beings like us react from the midbrain and damage relationships, we snap and create enmity between people, causes distance between people. And that becomes miserable for others to live with us. If we take a fraction of a second for the information in the midbrain to travel to the cortical part of the brain, we can be much more easier. You know, you might have heard said in our old folks' lore And even in folklore, count 10 before you react. Giving that time for the information from the midbrain to go to the cerebrum is very important. Give time. If you close your eyes and let the emotion go to the other parts of your brain and open your eyes with a smile, that makes a whole lot of difference. Then you won't want to produce a fight. Gentleness becomes part of your nature.
So the word we speak, the gestures, the manner we approach, everything must be gentle. Then we can have a gentle communication and a strong bonding between any relationship. And another case, sir, actually we had when a person is short-tempered or when he is approaching many people for solving a problem, like I am hypersensitive, I'm having hypertension, so I can't control, so I need the help of others. And they are using a lot of, nowadays we can see a lot of social media issues without knowing the actual crust of something or the actual situation. Many people are creating some stories. Recently, we are seeing that, oh, that person is corrupted, oh, he is not good, his culture is not that good, and sometimes something they are creating. And when it comes from where you got this information, they are unable to tell because they are cooking something from some small things which they are getting from others, and they're creating a stories. So what you can tell about that kind of mentality of a person?
Dr. Harry, you are putting me in a very, very tough spot because what you said is very right.
Yes, sir.
You only have to watch the political debates in the channels. There may be 3 or 4 panelists there, and just watch them. How do they behave in channel discussions? If possible, they will not want to allow the other person to speak. They would interfere everywhere, and they would want to cut the other person down. And pardon my saying, these people behave, should I say that? I don't know. They mostly react from their midbrain. You know what I mean?
And actually, sir, they may be well educated also. People with
yeah. Well educated, well stationed, and holding very important positions. But they would say that I am hyper, I can't help it and all that. That is simply impertinence. If a person says, that's what I am, it is simply saying, I don't care. That's not the way to live. Existentially, that's a very wrong way of being in the world. And so you would get very uncomfortable watching these political discussions between 3 or 4 people. You know, they would even allow the moderator to come in between and say something. They want to fight it out there. And it's so vicious, the words, and watch their facial expressions. You watch whenever now, from now on, if you watch a political discussion, a political channel, watch the faces and their eyes, and you will see the deadly anger and the rejection of the other person. And those are real bad examples for the younger generation. Reacting.
Sir, actually, we can see when years back, we were not having the cell phone, or our communication is very limited. But at that time, the peace of mind, or I mean the patience will be more. But nowadays, everyone is short-tempered because we need everything to be in our fingertips. So we are expecting everything should happen like that. So whenever we are facing some hurdles or some block in between, from small children to younger age, they are very much short-tempered and they cannot adapt themselves in a hard situation. And nowadays we can see in schools and colleges, this counseling is going to be having a great importance, because every mind is getting undergoing a difficult transformation, and their mentality, the fraction of seconds, their emotions are being, I'm not able to get the word exactly. So what is your perspective? Because in the current scenario, all are short-tempered. We can't actually think, oh, this person will react like this. He or she may be undergoing some transformation of mental transformation. Actually, knowingly or unknowingly, they are doing many things.
A sudden impulsive reaction is more understandable than calculated move to harm the other person. You must be hearing in the channels, the two lovers fall apart, and then the boy goes home and plans everything, meticulously plans everything, and comes and cuts the throat of the person whom he claimed to have been in love for some time. So it's not just a momentary reaction only. It gets into calculations, predetermined murder coming from this habit of reacting. Every evil in our society is because of the lack of control over the emotions, that we give a free play. We do not know, or we do not care to take care of our emotions. You know, all this killing, murder, and suicide, these are all the result of reacting. And let me say, living out of the midbrain. But reaction has another word to represent it. A reaction in a person can turn to response. Reaction is always in anger. And when a person learns to love and return the interactions in a responsive manner. Response is always in love and in patience and in humility. That's what I like about Toc H. It says, witness in humility, humbly. What is it that I have got to be proud of? To say that I'm somebody, I am a Ph.D. in counseling and I'm so this and that. There is nothing. There's no difference between you and me. We are all the same. You scratch my skin and you scratch your skin. It's the same red blood. Anybody has got. There is no difference between an Indian and a Chinese and a Caucasian Westerner or an African. We are all the same. And if we have that humility to accept the other person, we will have the peace of mind to respond in love. So I would say, to be free from this type of reaction into killing and murdering and suiciding, we must learn the art of responding. I'm writing a small book on the art of responding.
Oh, very
It's
nice.
actually, yeah, come Hari, yeah. Tell
Yeah,
me.
very nice, actually, regarding that book you are telling. Yeah, which you are planning to write here.
The art of responding. And response doesn't come from a haughty heart. It comes from humility, a humble heart, who is willing to love everyone. That's what I'm so enamored by the Toc H compass. Love widely. Anything,
Actually,
everything deserves your love.
yeah, exactly, sir. So we can achieve anything. We can face any hurdles or whatever it may be, the difficult times with the feeling of love. For example, a husband and wife, or a father, son, mother, daughter, son, whatever may be the relationship among the friends. If there is a foundation of love, whatever may be the problem, it can be sorted out. But when the true love is not matching, again the blaming starts, because there comes me, you, he, she. Actually, if love is there, as sir has mentioned, if you scratch your skin, the feeling will be same. But the intensity of that scratch, a person who is scratching over the skin, if he is or she is having the true feeling of love, that scratching would be changed to a soothing. They won't be able to scratch.
Yeah. Dr. Hari, I want to give a different dimension of the thing that we call love. There are 4 different types of love, categories. One is called patting love. Says, look at this cell phone, and I just pat this and say, hey, this is good. I just love it. That's patting love, harmless. But when I say, this is good, I want this. Oh, I want this. That becomes snatching love, which in Latin we call eros, erotic love. The whole problem of the world is based on this type of love, erotic love. I want, I will take. It doesn't matter what happens to you, it doesn't matter. It's like the he-goat who is on the street and jumps on a she-goat, and he does what he wants, and he walks off. He doesn't care. All that he wants is he wants, and he takes it. Eros. If human beings start behaving like that, they will not stop at raping a 6-year-old child, as you have just recently heard in the media. Can a human being think of raping a 6-year-old child? Ah, that's what is happening. Erosis, erotic love. Oh, it's all happens in the name of love. The whole problem with the world is eros, erotic love. Selfish love. I want, I will get. My point is right, so I want to prove you wrong. That's what happens in political channels. I am right, you are wrong. You know, this type of mentality in human beings is so sad, but it is there. But you, all you hear me now, have to think, should I not recognize when eros is arise in me? It's not in sexual love only. It may be in stealing and thieving and killing and everything. Eros, usually understood as erotic love in the sexual context only. No. One can kill, take away the purse of a person because he wants money. He wants to go and collect opium from Afghanistan and sell it here. He wants the money. That's eros. He loves money, and he will not stop selling heroin or hashish or anything. Doesn't matter. I want and I will do. This is happening. This is not happening between people only, but this is happening between states, between countries. China says they want Arunachal Pradesh. We want it. We will take it. It's not yours. We want it. What is it? Taking it ours. It's a transformed or modified form of erosis in human being. And then there is a third type of love, which is a bartering love, which is also called philos, human love. That is, you give me 10 rupees, I will give you 10 rupees worth of things. That is bartering. You give me, I give you. Unfortunately, very sadly, this happens in bedrooms also. It becomes a bartering thing. Some people think lovemaking is bartering. It's so sad when what too intensely supposed to be one people try to barter. I give you what I understand as love, and you give me what you understand as love. A physical exchange or orgasmic fulfillment of each person. Hey, nobody can make love. Please understand that. Nobody can make love. Love must happen between two people. What on the marital bed happens is love, but that must happen, not created, not generated. So please stop using the two words, let's make love. You can't make love. You can let love happen. See, all these hormones related to the orgasm is released from your brain and from your testes and your prostate and all those glands and everything. It happens. You are not creating it by mechanical movements. That will be a sad, sad thing.
Exactly so, sir. So as you have mentioned, we can't create love. That should happen. That everything is starting from the brain, and we can't buy love also. We can't sell love. We can't buy love. We can't create love. It's happening, and we must be able to happen it, because it's a situational. It's a continuous process. It has to happen, and we cannot force anyone to love other or to get love or to. We can't guarantee anything, because it has to happen, and the feeling must be intense also. So the next question is that regarding decision making. For example, today I'm planning to have some special dish for my breakfast. So I'm quite confused. So it's feeling good for me. What about the others? What is their opinion? And if I'm dressing like this, what will be their opinion? It's okay for me, but what they are thinking about me. And everywhere we are relating our decisions or our interests with the society. So actually, we are doing some genuine thing for ourselves? If I'm asking a question like this, if what I am feeling may not be acceptable by the other person, should I leave it or should I move with my passion? The passion in the sense, when we can ask suggestions from others, we can get suggestions, we can filter it, we can get more idea. But actually, we must know what is the intention of the other person also. In many situations, we can see a lot of interferences are happening, and sometimes they are creating some troubles also, knowingly or unknowingly. So what is our sense of mentality to identify the right thing at the right time? And it comes as decision-making skill also. Yes, sir.
Dr. Hari, thank you for this very important question. Decision making. A decision that you make, what I make, must be a wise decision. There must be wisdom operating behind my decision. I can look at things in a subjective manner. And in a subjective decision, I will take decisions which are useful to me. I am subject to my emotions and my needs, and I take a decision for myself. That's a subjective decision. And then the next step is objective decision. You find out what are the things and what is the possibility of this, what is the possibility of this, what are the plus and what is the minus, and everything you calculate, and you take a decision depending on your findings. Objective, analytical decisions. But you see, there is a trap there. Your objectivity ultimately is guided by your subjectivity and your profit and your gain behind it. So whether it's a subjective decision or whether it is an objective decision, inevitably the subjectivity comes in. As I said earlier in my introduction, I started as an existentialist. And so there is this dichotomy between subjectivity and objectivity. A really living, wise person should be able to get beyond this dichotomy of subjectivity and objectivity. When I say that, you might be a little bit confused about what is this man talking? Dichotomy of subjectivity and objectivity, and get beyond that. Yes, unless you go beyond your subjective, objective analysis and arrive at a decision, it will be all based on selfish gains. Decision making will depend on the purpose of your existence. What is the purpose of my existence? Is it for beefing up my power, increasing my bank balance, cultivating my influence among people, or getting into powerful positions? What is the purpose of my existence? If your purpose is to be a blessing in the lives of other people, there's a purpose there. In your mode of being in the world becomes a blessing being, there is a viable purpose behind your existence. If you don't live for that existence, that type of mode of being in the world, for being a blessing to everyone, then you are tied up in the dichotomy of subjectivity and objectivity. You have to go beyond it. How can I be a source of blessing for others. That is a space beyond subjectivity and objectivity. That's what I meant by that, if it was not clear. And so, to be able to travel to that awareness, you need wisdom. To be able to make a wise decision. Decision making is not just a casual affair. A decision that you make must be useful and must be a blessing to all people. Otherwise, there is no purpose for you to be here on earth. As I said, Toc H, our organization, says that service is the rent we pay for the room here on earth. If I don't justify that, I have no right to exist. If my existence is of no use to anyone other than me, I am an animal. I cannot be called a Homo sapien specimen.
Yeah, exactly, sir. So makes everything in a different way. We have to think differently. So I think it's a quite long session now. So it was very highly informative and interactive session to have a detailed discussion with you. And one more question from my side. The thing is that, for example, two friends, they are telling that you must be my friend throughout my life. And for example, a son is telling to his father, you must always be in love with me. A husband or wife should be will be telling each other, our relationship will be evergreen. For example, brother and sister or the siblings, our bonding will be strong, so strong that we will not break each other. We will be there for each other. So let's make an agreement for this. There won't be any break between us. So in this physical world, we are going for all these agreements or these, all these writings. But actually, when it comes to an emotional well-being, where this writing or the memorandum of understanding stands in a relationship. Because nowadays we can see, oh, he or she should assure me that like this, they will be following this pattern of life. But when we are starting that assurance, definitely, as sir you have mentioned, the midbrain or our brain will be giving a stimulus. There is one path we are signing that our life should be like this. So definitely there is another side also. There will be another side. So what is the importance of such agreements or deals and all? Because it's an emotional agreement actually. So what is the resemblance on the physical world regarding such situation? As we are doing some counselings and all some issues and all coming, whether it may be a student problem, a family problem or anything, it will be sorted out. But for example, they will be telling we need an agreement or an assurance from the other side or from the group of people. What is the relevance of
that? Dr. Hari, you can have no assurance from others.
Yes, exactly.
No assurance from anybody can make your life happy and useful for others. You see, what you are, who you are, emerges from within you, and what you need to be is again a decision.
Exactly.
And decisions sometimes are evolved from intuitions also. And you must know intuitions comes as a result of a belief system and intelligence. Without intelligence and knowledge, combining that with a belief system, a system of ethics that you follow, and then you are likely to get an intuition to make the right choice. So it's not easy. I won't say it is easy, but you have to travel quite a long distance within. You have to travel within to find that area of silence within you where intuitions emerge. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not casual. It's not matter of fact. Serious issue. Wisdom, again, cannot be made. You cannot make wisdom. Wisdom has to happen within you. That type of humility will take you a long way further.
Exactly, sir, because that question stands a lot of relevance, because nowadays students are taking certain course. They're asking for an assurance that whether they'll be getting a job, whether their academic life will be better, whether it will be there will be a career growth. All such of things, as sir has mentioned, that trust should happen from our mind, and we have to work towards to achieve that. So I consider this session as a blessing for me, because I consider it as a great pleasure and privilege to share such a session with Dr. Alexa, because his vast experience, he's nearly 87 years of age, and I consider as a great treasure to have this session, to get his suggestions, his viewpoints, his experience sharing. More or less, it was like an experience sharing, because spontaneously he was answering with relating it in a quite better manner to get a better visualization. So I am bowing my head for your blessings, and I feel so humbled for you. Thank you, sir. And I consider all the blessings will be there, and I wish you a good health and good life ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hari. And my blessings for all the listeners, for everywhere, anywhere. My blessings. Be blessed and be a blessing. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your spending your valuable time, and it will be a treasure, truly, from bottom of heart. And yeah, no words to express. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.